All right, so we've been working on the Harley here, the 40 Harley. We've been working on trying to get this fender to fit. Remember the last time we talked about this, the fender was all jacked up a little bit and didn't kind of didn't kind of fit right. So what we've got so far is we've mounted the rear wheel and we put that back in, and we had got the backing plate and all that stuff all set up here. And then we found out where we needed our adjusters to be at. So we got them installed right now, kind of where we want them to be at. And so we ended up mounting the lower bolt here into the fender. And then we got the clamps down for right now, fitting this. And right now, the fender is twisted a little bit, but we've got it to be pretty much straightened out here. So, anyway, so what I got the problem with right now is we have these braces right here that don't quite, are kind of the wrong length or something. So what we've determined is to keep this thing straight, we're going to have to remove some material here. We're going to have to bend these back and then get them to line up again. This one's not horrible over here, but when you look at this one, we're off quite a bit with this V-twin fender that we talked about before. So anyway, so that's what we're doing right now. We're gonna do this next. We're gonna heat this up, flat, straighten these back out straight, and then come back and then bend them where we think we need to be at. Then we'll trim these and notch them like we need to, pretty much. So, all right. Well, before we started like getting the torch out and stuff and bending things, we wanted to make sure this fender really fit well. Of course, we tweaked it a little bit more and got it to set really nice and square and not twisted and stuff. We also installed somewhat installed the rear stand, and really can't find a dimension on how to mount this thing and all that stuff to begin with. So we kind of like had to like look at reference pictures and stuff. But the way everything comes up, we take this the latch and you mount it to where it pretty much it's about a. So we can kind of show you how to do it here. Pretty much, you have to get this lined up to where it's
about just a little bit below the fender.
Yeah, just a little bit below the fender, so it doesn't bang into the fender and stuff. Compared to all the other bikes I've seen that were like that, mounted like that, that's kind of how we decided it. So I wanted to make sure this fit mounted before we decided to drill or cut or bend or melt any of this fender up. So. So I guess we're off to doing some torch work here. So, okay, so from the rear here, like you see, this is kind of how the rear stand kind of will sit. Of course, this side comes out just a little bit more for your foot and stuff when you go to put this thing up on this rear stand, and then this one kind of sticks out a little bit as well, but not as much. But yeah, this looks pretty straight with the frame here. And really can't see very well with this as much, but it's pretty straight here. So anyway, like we're ready to do some torch work here. Bend these brackets back a little bit so we can get this to fit flush. So all right, so while working on this rear fender here, I brought to my attention some of the finish overall look of some of the parts on 1940s, and we're going to go over that real quick here. Here's the Palmer book has a nice picture of a prototype 40 EL knucklehead and a 40 UL flathead. Flatheads in 74 inches had iron heads, and the 80s, all 80s had aluminum heads, but you could actually buy them because they were optional. You could buy them separately and put them on yourself or something. And there's a couple other pictures here, but in particularly is the axle adjuster we're going to talk about right away. So the axle adjuster itself in these photos are cadmium plated. And so we got this Colony kit right here of the axle adjuster. It comes with a cadmium axle adjuster bolt, and then it comes with a cadmium hex nut, but you need to switch it out to make it the right finish. It gets a parkerized nut. which old part number was 0129 for that nut, and modern or newer part number was 7789 for that nut. So, and then of course the axle adjuster itself, part number was a different. I mean, it's a different number as well. It's like the old number was 2827-36, and the modern number in the 40s that came out was 41576-36. So otherwise, we got Parkerized hardware here, bolt coming from the inside, going out with the nut, and then Parkerized hardware holding the rear stand on. So, and this is just mocked up right now. It's not ready totally. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. All right, so here we go. This is what we're talking about here. So we got the thickness of the metal here is pretty much 1/8 of an inch thick. And when we go to heat this up and bend it, we have to make it to where
the inside of this is 1/8 of an inch on the inside of that, because then the outside will be flush with the inside of this.
because we don't want this to move anymore now that we've got it figured out where we want it.
So we put this in here to use that when we heat this, that we can bend that up against that.
Right. Okay. Let's try this out. All right. Well, here we go. We're heating this up to get ready to bend it. We're gonna get it red, nice and red, and then we're gonna have to get on there with a tool and try to bend it. We gotta save some of this curve here because we're gonna need it when we bring it back, because we have to notch it just like this is. So anyway, let's see what happens here.
It don't break.
Yeah, really, that's the next thing. Hope this thing don't break when I do it. There's probably enough heat, you probably can remove it. There's the first step.
It's not a bit crooked yet. Pretty straight now. Okay.
There we go. You want to go into this one, or you want to?
No, we're going to bend one.
All right.
We're going to bend one first. We'll see how it works.
Yeah, so we're going to heat up the back part here next to that clamp, and then turn it back to a 90-degree shorter area there. Nice recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna try to hold this thing well.
That hurt it?
No, we're fine.
Trying to square that edge.
Right.
I think I did it.
I think you got it there.
Okay.
Alright, we're gonna test fit it now here, kind of. Yeah, shut that off.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Alright, it should clean up because once we trim it and make our hole, then it should all line up. But we'll do that later now that we got this bent in the position we want it to be in. So let's move on to the other side here. Alright, here we go. We're starting this side now. Reduce the flame size so it doesn't like starting everything on fire. Not really, but yeah. This will take a little bit longer to do with the littler flame, but
A lot longer.
It'll work out though.
It's not going to get hot enough.
Yeah, well, you can just raise it a little bit. Just
We need to go up a little bit more. There it gets. Makes all the difference in the world.
yeah, it does. Well, we'll
Okay.
just be.
Now you want to keep it red while I work on it?
I guess we could try that. Yeah.
Okay, let's trade places.
All right.
Don't get the heat too far that way. Get it out here. Out here. I need to get the bend out.
Like there.
Yeah. I think it's pretty good. I think we got it okay. Okay, now next to the pliers without getting the pliers hot.
Okay.
Right
okay,
into
well,
there. Get it good and red. Right next to the pliers, all the way down to the pliers. Get it good and red. Keep it right at the pliers.
Yeah. Whoops.
Get
Got
too close.
a little close there.
Get it good and red. Right in their pliers. We got to bend it close.
Right.
Then I can bring it back. Okay, now we got to get it red out of here. I got to bring it back. We needed a square bend.
Right.
I think we got it right there.
All right. Let's check it out then. All right, so we got this all kind of where we want it. Now this brace has to line up flush with this rear section of the fender, and so that way we know where we'll have to put our hole at. But we need to come in kind of like that, according to pictures anyway, that I have seen and got. Then we also got some other stuff going forward. After we have this, we're gonna get this all buttoned up and finished up, but we also have to put the rear latch on that holds the rear stand up. Kind of got it kind of figured out, and then we got to figure out where the taillight's supposed to sit. So properly, we don't want it too high and we don't want it too low. It'll look stupid. So we don't have a template to go off of because I've never seen one or can't find one, and of course they didn't mark them out, the holes out on here for us. So we got to do this all on our own here. So stay tuned. All right, well, here we go. I think we got the braces like we want it. So we got these vice grips holding these together where it needs to line up at on that side, and then on this side as well. So next step will be marking it and drilling it, and then cutting it out like that, like it looked like originally.
And then cut it off again, or taper it.
Yeah. Right, making it all finished up, and then we still kept our nice line here
As much as possible.
Yeah, so this all matches pretty. And then along with this side here. So yeah, we're getting there. Well, there we go. We had the rear guard down here, and we found where we want our hole at, so we got it drilled on this side, and we did the other side as well. So now the next step here is to remove the material and make it look like this over here, and then trim off the excess material we don't need. So that's what we got going on right now. So moving along here. All right, so on the rear brace bolt that holds it together here, this is something I want to go over here. We're getting ready to check this out. But this is what the original bolt looked like from 1940 to earlier motorcycles. So this part number came out in 23, so it's be about 23 to 40 year range, because in 41 they went to the style carriage bolt. Also, the thread pitch is different between the two. This one's fine, and this one was 18. So fine would be considered 24 Harley thread. Anyway, so here's a picture of this out of this reproduction of a spare parts book for 1940. And that's our picture of our bolt right there, 3743-23. And the nut that holds it, 0117, or old part number, that comes out to be a 5/16 24. So later in 1941, like I was saying, they went to this style, carriage bolt style, round head, and then they've changed the nut as well. They put a fine threaded nut on it. It's like
Coarse thread.
Or yeah, coarse thread on this bolt here. So in later bikes, this is actually a parts print of a 50s, 49 to 59, somewhere in there, and they changed the part number to a 5425, and then this here 7748 for that nut ends up being a coarse threaded nut. So the other special feature about this nut, it's not a square, so it's kind of oval looking. And fortunately, on this V-twin fender, it has the same prominent shape here for this headed bolt, and it's not square like a lot of carriage bolts are. So I'm gonna go show you how we put this on and what I'm talking about here. All right, so we got this brace pretty much figured out how we want it to look. We got it notched to line up with this. Of course, the rivet's loose yet. We're gonna fix that. But there's our prominent shade up I was talking about, how it's curved on the sides and it's flat on the bottoms, just like this bolt is. So it falls right into that groove, into that notched area, really nice and securely, and doesn't really move back and forth, unlike the later 41 style. And then it comes through and gets held together. The finish on this is supposed to be parkerized as well, so we're going to keep the pattern going here for this 1940, how it's supposed to look. But anyway, so that's kind of what that's all about. So we're moving along here. All right, well, we got this fender pretty much mocked up right now. Getting ready here. We're gonna fix a couple rivets yet. See that coming up. We got the rear stand to sit properly with the fender. The stand was actually bent just a little bit, so this is kind of what it looks like. It tapers out to give it a more of a wide stance on both sides. And then, anyways, that's pretty much that. We gotta hook up the latch here that mounts to. Gotta figure out where we want it to sit at, and then the taillight. Taillight goes here somewhere, so we're gonna work on that here coming up. All right, well, here's the taillight for the 40 UH. Okay, so this is a 39 through 1946 style taillight, and there's a couple different variations of this tail lamp. They didn't really ever have a name. They didn't really decide from the factory what to call it or whatever, but throughout history, the people around that had these bikes or whatever, they would decide to call either a boat tail lamp or a beehive. I mean, so you can kind of find it that way, looking it up. But anyways, the lenses were glass. Lenses had, the red lens had Harley Davidson written in it. You can kind of see it there. This has been restored and repainted and everything. And then the glass lines up here on top. Original ones have Harley Davidson written on the top here. Reproductions don't. And anyway, so what makes this a variation type 1 is makes it a 39 through 40 because, or 40, actually 41, because it doesn't have the screw holes. Because later in 42, they added screw holes to hold these lenses in. And they also added a rubber seal around the lenses. And the very early ones, they actually didn't have Harley Davidson written up there, according to this Palmer book over here. So, anyway, I can read this whole article if you wanted to, but I think that'd be a little bit boring. But the gist of it is I pretty much covered it. So, what we're gonna do is try to mount this to the fender. 1940, the taillights were the same color as the main color of the bike, so it's black. I'm painting my bike black, so that's why it's black. Otherwise, if I would have had squadron gray, it'd be gray. Or if I was going with red bike, it'd be red. Or the blue. Or there's a blue also in 1940. And anyways, it's got a reproduction wire, nice wire set on here. This was restored by someone I know from kind of like a family friend, kind of in a way. So anyways, so it's kind of important to me in a way. So anyways, it's got real cloth type reproduction wires, so it'll look good on there. All right, so getting this fender mounted, of course it doesn't have any holes pre-drilled in this thing, but in this brace there's a hole right here, and this hole here is the bottom bolt hole for that taillight to go through. So this is how we'll start it. We'll start with this hole, drill it, find out where our bottom is, then we'll figure out where our top needs to be, and then we also have to come through the other side, not come through this side, so we can route our wires through here, because the wires go in this tube channel here, right here. All right, so we got our hole drilled here in the center of for the bottom bolt for the taillight, and then we centered it off the fender point on this piece here, and because when we drilled through here, we had a good starting point here, so we were able to reference the hinge here, center of the hinge, and the center of the tip of this pressed in piece, this detail here pressed in. So we went from center of this to center of the hinge there, and it was showing that the hole was centered. So we measured from there up our distance between the two bolt holes, which was like, what was the distance between those two?
About 2 1/8.
About 2 1/8 or so, and then we marked it here. So we think this is right where the hole needs to be. We've measured like 4 times now, and we're going to try to drill once instead of measuring once and drilling once. So
according to this is the center of the bolts. So we might want to, yeah, we're pretty close.
All right, so
okay,
we're going to go ahead and try to drill this here. Then we'll be able to figure out the wire hole after that. All right, so one would think you could probably just throw a gasket on here and, you can find your holes easily that way. Well, particularly the gasket for these beehive boat tail or this 39 through 46 taillight are a little bit different. The reproductions or gaskets are wrong, and this is kind of what the gasket's really supposed to look like. And you really can't use these for guidance. So, because there's a rubber one that you can buy that has a bead along the outside edge, and it's got like 2 holes or 3 holes in the center through here. Yeah, that's cool, but that's not really the type of gasket that was ever available for this taillight, so I went with this style taillight gasket. So it obviously has a little bit different look to it than the 3 holes, all one piece rubber thing, so we couldn't use this. So anyway, getting ready to drill this hole here. All right, so we got the taillight up here, and we got the bottom hole in, and this bolt hole we just drilled is like right on. Now we just gotta like drill it bigger, make it fit. All right, well there we go. We got it hanging there. We got a nut holding it on there so it don't fall off, but and it won't probably anyway. But anyways, it looks like it's pretty set in a good spot. So we're good with that. So next few things is, of course, like I said, drilling a hole for the wires, and then we'll have to put the license plate bracket on up here. So anyway, yeah, it's coming together. Well, here we go. We got the 2 holes for the mount the taillight on, and we have the hole. It's kind of large, but we want it to be kind of large because we got to bend wires to go through here, and we had to clean it up really nice so it's nice and smooth so it doesn't rip the wires when it goes through here, because it goes in this little channel up along there and in a tube. So next we'll get this thing, we'll mount the taillight here, and then we will try to figure out where we want our license plate bracket to be, and in conjunction with some photos that I have that kind of reference that all up. So all right, so we got the top hole drilled here for the oh, there it is. The top hole drilled for the rear stand catch. It takes a round head screw like this, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch long, 051 old original part number, and goes like that. Proper finish for this bike was parkerized. That's what we're doing here. So we're going to attach it to this to the backside. Then we'll be able to find where our other hole needs to be at and go from there. So we want it to be straight. We don't want it all crooked, and yeah, otherwise it won't work right. There we go. We decided that this is where we want this bottom hole to be at. We followed the straightness of this and followed down along here with the rest of the holes, and we're right straight. So,
and it lines up with the point on the other side.
Yeah, and the point in that feature here of the fender, that pressed in feature. Yeah, this is like centered. So of course that tacks a little bit off, so it's deceiving, but we're going off at this point, center the holes all the way up. So
if you look down,
like I said, if we look down, it looks like it's
in the middle.
We feel like it's in the middle, so it looks like it to us. So all right, so we got the latch catch for the rear stand attached. We're not using the proper stuff, but we just didn't want to damage my nice parkerized finished product screws. But anyways, we got the rear stand to catch, and it hooks really good. So, and we're centered. So we're good here. Now we're gonna move on to something else here, which we have a couple more things to do yet. We have to figure out where the license plate bracket has to be. So we'll go on to that, and then after that we'll smack these rivets, and because some of these were loose. So that'll be next. All right, so like I said before, we didn't really have any templates to do any of this stuff, so I'm going off of like photos of original bikes and some of the photos in the Palmer book. But we decided that the gap on the majority looked like it was about a 1/2 inch between the bottom of that bracket. Give me that bracket. The bottom of this bracket, and then about a 1/2 inch from the top of the taillight to the bottom of this bracket, and then we just kind of like squared it off you know, made it straight across here, and you know, so I think this is where we want it. So we're gonna, I guess, just drill it right here. We're gonna double check again, and then we'll just go from there. All right, well, here we go. We got the fender fitted. We have all the components fitted to it, all laid out nice. We have the correct hardware holding it on right now, just so we all know that it's all going to work. This is the bottom screw for the latch, and the other one's hidden underneath the taillight here. And then we got this, of course, attached here, and it's holding the rear stand nice. So all this stuff works. So now we are ready to smack the rivets and make sure they are in the right spot, and then make them nice and tight. Then,
see, like you got one that's loose here.
Yeah, these two are loose here, and then the other side over here, these two are loose. So we're ready to take all this stuff off now, so we don't damage it. We'll set it aside till a later date, because this stuff probably won't get put back on till it gets painted. But we're gonna pretty much build the bike after we get this fender ready to go here. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and start taking it apart. Looks pretty good. All right, so we're working on these, tightening these rivets up, and we got a couple spec down. It's getting real tight real fast. We're mushrooming out better than it was. So we're just using a hammer and a rod here to drive it in. And we got this nice little die we homemade right there. We just kind of like,
We gotta do the other side.
kind of dished out a piece of steel here to give the shape of the round-headed rivet. So that we can keep the roundness of the head of the rivet without losing it.
Right there.
Right there.
Be down.
Whoops.
Right there.
Right there. Got it.
Do you?
Yep.
Do you?
So see how they're like small, and we're gonna like tighten them up. There we go. See the difference there? A couple more to do here and finish this all up here for right now. All right, so we pretty much finished up this rear fender here, and we're ready to kind of like put it back on the bike. We got all the rivets nice and tight again. Had all the stuff, got all the stuff fitted in the back here. Saw all that just a little bit ago. But on the closing here, pretty much just want to say that with this being a V-twin fender, there was the part number 50-0156. This was the 39 through 46 fender with the 5/8 thick wide braces here, 5/8 wide braces there, which is pretty accurate. I mean, there was a lot of things good and bad about it throughout this whole deal here. We didn't really, I mean, we got to work and with what we had to work with. So, anyways, it kind of like straight from like V-twin or whatever. They talk about how you got to pretty much use a lot of patience when you're putting this together. It says it right in the description when you buy this thing. So, anyways, which you can tell we had some patience there, and it took a while to get it right, but we got it pretty much fitting pretty dang good right now. So going forward with this 40, I guess we'll work on putting the engine and transmission in and stuff. So coming up next couple segments, but for right now, that's kind of like finishes off this whole segment on this rear fender, getting it to fit properly and so forth. So hope you enjoyed all this, and we'll see you again soon.